Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the Zulu's Grand Bounty that happened this past weekend. It was OP04, it was a case tournament for it. Also, I was there at Zulu's this weekend too, still technically am right now in Washington. Super fun event. I was able to stream it as well on my Twitch, and I will be re-uploading the VOD on my YouTube in the next couple days, just as you know, I'm traveling back right now too, but that's the plan for it. And also this upcoming weekend, if you guys want more content for the One Piece card game, I do have a subathon starting Friday on Twitch, starting at noon. We're trying to go for 48 hours, and at the end of the 48 hours on Sunday, whether we make it or not, we're going to be doing a triple win-a-box tournament too, which should be a lot of fun. We'll be, OP04 and webcam, 128 player cap, largest event I've ever run for webcam potentially, and really looking forward to that too. So if you guys want more content and more tournaments, make sure to check that out too. So that's what we have in the future, but for today, we do have, again, this breakdown. There were 16, it was an 84-player tournament with a technical top cut. It was supposed to have a top cut, but everyone split in top 8 except for the first place and second place in Swiss ended up playing out, which was on my Twitch channel as well. Since there was like a first place only prize, which I think it was just to decide what the next playmat was for the next grand bounty. But in this top 16, we did have 4 Katakuris, 3 Doffys, which are the new ones from the set, 3 Laws, 2 Newgates, 1 Nami, 1 King, a King, a Yamato, and a Rebecca as well. So pretty diverse. Obviously, this is still weekend 1, so people still experimenting with stuff as well. Interesting to see no Zoros topped as well, but I don't think a lot of people are on the deck specifically for this event. And I also think that it is a locals. It's a very, very large locals, but again, like a little bit, not super duper grindy. But I do think, definitely some good plays, some good players, and looking forward to go over these deck lists with you guys too. So we're going to start off with our first place list, which is Ethan's, who's playing the green purple Doflamingo, and I think this is one of, if not the most popular leader from this set. It's really grindy in a lot of ways. The amount of value you're able to get from this deck is insane at times. The idea of just generally having 2 Dawn active at any given time is very strong for you. And I do think this deck can have a good matchup against Newgate as well, which I think we saw on stream that weekend too. But just so much value you're able to get, being able to get some like good 6Ks out with like the Zoro. Like Guild is also just a very good card. Being able to not only be a 6K, but also being able to draw with it as well is very strong in late game. And you can do some things with playing Doflamingo for 10, and then after you use all your Dawn, use Guild to attack and get that 2 Dawn back. But also then you get -2, you get the 2 draw, and then also you get the 2 Dawn back with your leader effect. So you still have Dawn open to play either the Hell's Judgment, Thunderbog, Spiderweb, Punk Gibbs, and all these good cards that are very strong. And also another thing too is that I think Thunderbog was fantastic for this deck too, in the sense that either if you have to go first, you're going to be off curve, but you don't really mind taking 2 life to go back, and then using this effect to go up 1 Dawn, get that ramp, or you can also, let's say you have to use a Queen effect early, then you can kind of recover it if you have like a Thunderbogwa in hand as well. So I think that's strong. I think this deck is very good. It's kind of already scoped out for what the ratios are. There's not a lot of diversity in like the film package. It's a very good package, but it's kind of understood what cards are the best right now. And I think we're still going to be able to see this deck do quite well in the next couple weeks too. So congrats to Ethan on their finish there. And then next up we have David, who played Katakuri. This is a bit of an interesting build of Katakuri as well. You'll notice that there's no not a lot of triggers in life for this one. We have Shirahoshi, we have Beige, and we have Sanji, and that's about it. We're not playing any copies of the 3-drop Parasparrow, which I generally think is still worth it, more or less, and no copies of Cracker, which Cracker and Smoothie I think are more options. Smoothie has always been kind of an option for me. I think Cracker was pretty standard for OP03, but OP04 I think a lot of people are kind of moving away from it, and I personally agree with that too. So you're just usually so much like tempo and aggression based that you really don't need to play the Cracker out, I feel like. And Sanji is just better kind of in the slot because the blocker is more important, I think, than the double attack for you. But we do have, again, like a lot of good vanillas. We have Randolph, we have Perospero, playing 4 of the 8 cost Charlotte Katakuri, which again has been a very, very popular card for yellow in the last couple weeks. We're also playing 3 copies of Yamato, which I still don't really know my thoughts about Yamato in Katakuri. I do think it does belong in some yellow decks, specifically Queen for sure. Sometimes purple, yellow, Croc, depending on who's playing it. Sometimes like Yamato as well. But the fact that it's a 9 cost is a little bit rough for you, and it's a little bit clunky at times. But the fact that it can heal and get rid of something on one, one card play, that's very strong too. So I don't know how I feel, but I usually kind of like the 7 drop Charlotte Linlin in these builds more. But I do agree that this does have times it's just kind of clunky to get there too. So nothing more than that, and also the 10 drop, but also no event cards in this one, no Arrow, no copies of Thunderbolt either, which is very interesting. So this is just kind of more like a value, play your big body and go for it. Kind of like, I would almost say like a Newgate version of it, with, just your vanillas and your value you try to get from it, but just an interesting build too. So congrats to David there for their 2nd place. And then next up we have 2 of our Trafalgar Laws. They both got in the top 8 and pretty much next to each other in Swiss, so I want to go over both of them. So this is Josh's list, and we also have Kelvin's list here as well. And you're going to notice there's not a lot of difference between the 2 of them. There's a lot of similarity, which, I mean, it's just kind of how it is with Trafalgar Law. We're pretty much in set 4 now, and pretty much everyone's running set 1 cards. And a couple set 2 cards, we've got Curly to Dawn, and we do have the Brook. And I've kind of decided that I think this is probably needed in most decks at like 1 or 2 copies. The value from it, I think, is strong enough, especially just being able to establish a Nico Robin or either one of your Zoros for free is very good. Helps you get that immediate chain of effects, and it's just good. Obviously Brook's only kind of good when you're trying to build your original board. Then after the fact, it's usually just a counter power. But the fact that it's a Straw Hat card that's green that can be searched off the 1-drop Nami, I think is fine. And looking at others, so this one pretty much the same too. The only difference is that like they added the Sanji 2K instead and used that ratio for it. But I kind of mentioned this in the previous event I went over, but Nami's pretty good. The 1-drop starter deck, it's been pretty standard, I think, in these builds too, at 2 or 3 copies at this point. It wasn't as popular, I'd say, for the majority of OP3. I think towards the end people were kind of on the card, and now it's been I think pretty much a staple at this point too. So not much more to say again about Law, but congratulations to both our players here of Josh and Kelvin. And then next up we have Adrian with their Newgate, and obviously Newgate's still around. I don't think that's either any surprise or any deny about that either. This version was a little bit unique in the fact that it wasn't playing any of the 9-drop Newgate or any of the 4-drop Marco blocker either. Just kind of using like the straight Strawbeard, and even like in OP02 for some of the Strawbeard builds, Newgate 9-drop wasn't needed for the deck, and I agree with if you're trying to be more tempo and aggressive with it, it's not super needed and can just be kind of dead in your hand a lot of the time, especially since we're not playing Izo for a searcher for this one. We're only playing our Nami to be able to find pretty much all of our value. We have 6 of our 4/6s with the Luffy and the Frankie. You also have the Luffy Rush card, which I think this card is still in a really, really good spot in this meta. I think a lot of decks are running blockers and kind of relying on them to protect them, and this can, just the fact that this card exists means that your opponent has to be worried about it, and then they can't always play around it, which is great. So, and then the kind of the event lineup that we saw in the PPG event as well, this happened the day after the PPG event, so people could see the results and deck lists and kind of adjust based on what they saw for this one. But I really still do believe like the Red Hawk is a really good removal card for Newgate, especially against stuff like Trafalgar Law, which I think can be one of the harder matchups at times. The fact that this can get rid of either like a blocker, or the fact that like it just prevents your opponent from wanting to swing and gets that removal from it, I think is a very strong card too. So I don't have much more to say about Newgate that I haven't said in the last 6 months, but still here, and congrats to Adrian for their finish there. We got a couple more decks. We have Victor with their Nami build, and this is pretty much the build that won the championship out in Japan a couple weeks ago. But it is a very, very strong deck for what it is. And Nami's kind of always going to be present, I think, in this meta. It's a little bit fast in general for Nami to be I think outright meta, but the fact that if we do get a little bit slower, people are playing more copies of like Rebecca and Queen and some of these like slower control decks. Nami will definitely kind of punish them, and just the fact that this deck eventually wins, on like turn if it just eventually wins by its own regard, means that it does have a clock that it puts a lot of these other kind of slower or control decks on. So I think that's very good. But obviously a very cost cheap wise for you too. We do just have I don't think we run any super rares, just a handful of rares and like the Kayas and like the Zephs and stuff, which are very good. Zeph, I think, still the very good card. We're not playing any Bellemere, which I think has fallen out of favor in general for this build. And then a whole lot of event cards. Lots of them have some good triggers, including the Desert Spada, the Impel Down All-Stars, Usopp, Rubber Band of Doom, Giant Gavel, Overheat, which you do have to, this did happen in stream, you do have to be active to bounce this card, a card back to your hand, so you do have to be cognizant of that. But I do like the fact that you can put a Kaya back in your hand and get that value. Brick Fist, Love Mellow, Deathwink, and also Sanji's Pilaf. So pretty likely that you're going to hit at least one or two cards in your, you have 33 events, right? So the average is, I guess, probably closer to three triggers in life from any game. So being able to do that is great. Obviously, it's not unheard of to have all 5 cards be very good, and you get a lot of strength from that too. So not much more. Congrats to Victor for their top 8 there. And then our last top 8, we do have Bryce sneaking in with King, and Bryce was the winner of the last Grand Bounty for the previous one they ran in the last set. But this is a really interesting build. I will say that this is not, I think, in any regard only for King. I think the only cards that really care about that are the Onigashima as well as the Kaido, right? Both these cards are important for that too, but this is kind of you'll see a lot of just a pile of good purple cards, right? A lot of them are 5 costs, which means we can play this Luffy. We can use this Luffy to, Dawn -1, trash your character with cost of 5 for your hand to gain Rush. So a 6/7 with Rush is honestly not too terrible of a card. You do have to go -1 in Dawn and card hand, so it's a little expensive, but I do think that is strong for what this is. And then you have a lot of removal in the fact Polly is very good for that. That also gets you some ramp. We also have the new Missile Sunday, which lets you get the Dawn, the Dawn. It also gets some card draw, and the trigger off your life isn't too terrible either. And then also the Onigashima. So nothing, you can play King and you can play Kaido, the Star Deck Kaido. I would assume Star Deck Kaido has some validity for it too. And if you guys don't know what King does, essentially if you have all 10 Dawn out, you give all your opponent's characters -1k power. So I think that comes up marginally, but sometimes can if that's, I don't know, if it gave your own cards +1k power, or if it gave -1k to your opponent's cards during their turn, I could see it, but it's only on your own turn, so it's again meme worthy, just kind of not very strong. But the fact that this is literally the first time I've done any kind of talk about King as a deck profile, but this build looks really, really interesting. I'd be interested to try it out at a kind of higher capacity as well. I think there are a lot of good cards for it, and just the fact there is kind of a good theme for it here. We also have this Kyoshiro, which does let you draw a card if you have 8 or more Dawn on play, which is pretty good for that too. It's a 5/6 that lets you draw a card. And then also the Gum Gum Jet Gatling as well, being able to use this to get a +3k, because we have a lot of cards in your hand that don't have any counter. And then just kind of being able to have this big boss monster 10-drop Kaido, which can clear the board. I think a lot of people aren't playing around this card, and you can get a lot of power from this too. So really interesting build. I'm really interested in trying it out myself, and maybe I'll do that in the next couple days or so. But there is just a theme about it. It also kind of reminds me of the Magellan deck I saw back in Oklahoma in OP03, with just you have just a lot of purple good stuff, and purple does get generically a lot of marginally good stuff in the last couple sets. So I'd be really interested in trying this build and see how it works. So this is there. Congratulations again to Bryce for their finish. And then 2 more decks. We've got Dexter with Yamato, and I really do like Yamato as a leader, and I do like the effect, being able to be a 6k on defense, and just being able to be a generic yellow leader, I think is strong. I think the only issue is that yellow is kind of the color that doesn't like to have generic leaders right now because of the 10-drop Big Mom and such, but I do think the deck is in a good spot in its own right. We do have a lot of good boss monsters. The 9-drop in Yamato again is I think better in this leader than others. The only issue with it is that it costs 9, which means you want to be able to put a Dawn underneath your leader and put a Dawn, pay 9 for this Yamato, which means the arrows just kind of get stuck in your hand at times, which kind of feels bad, but Other than that, you know, you do get the benefits of just like the generically good yellow cards that we got. Having a 5/7 and a 6/8 that are both searchable off-putting, I think is good as well. And you just get, again, a lot of value from this deck too. So I don't have much more to say for it. I do like the 4-drop Katakuri in this build because you do usually just take your life a lot. It is a little bit rough too because there are so many 4-life leaders that are running around, which does kind of mess up some of the math for you sometimes, but it can still work out, and just being able to see what cards, and like being able to stack your own life, which can, you know, put like a beige or like a Sanji to the bottom, I think is still strong too. So that is this build. Congratulations to Dexter for their finish. And to wrap it up, we have one more second. Jaru with their Rebecca, which is just sneaking into the top 16 here. And I know a lot of people have been like interested in Rebecca, and I do think it does have a lot of, you know, potential good matchups. I also think that it's a, you know, a very, very grindy deck, and it's something that I think will probably get better as time goes on, as people kind of recognize how to play the deck and how to build it and elsewise. But it is a very, very tricky deck to kind of master, I think, at week 1 at least. So, but the build is kind of how we see it in a lot of ways. We do have a lot of, I'd say, staples in the build. A lot of just the, you know, low-cost Dressrosa cards make sense. You do need to have a lot of Dressrosas, just in the fact that Rebecca only searches the top 2 for Dressrosa card for its draw effect. So we do have that. But some of the techs that we've seen, we have the Tashigi for 2K and getting stuff costing less. We also do have the Alti, which being able to you know, play this early and get that early tempo if you need to, I think is strong. I think this is a nice low tech that I don't normally see in Rebecca builds. And then also the 10-drop Kuzan. 10-drop Kuzan, it is unsearchable, and because of that, it does get, you know, trashed very easily. But just the fact that this can get rid of a card on the board is fantastic, and then you can kind of pair it with, like, even like Alti, like if they're not expecting, Alti can pair with this card, and now it can bottom deck a 7 or less with this effect, which I think is really neat. And then but it is interesting to say, like, not a lot of removal outside of this, at least event card wise. We're only playing the Gum Gum King Kong gun, but I do I think Kuzan in most builds, like my builds, if you want to be like really control heavy, it just kind of makes it so your opponent has to either answer the Kuzan with like a red rock, or they're just going to be like losing their board every turn, or at least their big bodies, to this Kuzan, which seems really strong. So anyways, that is going to be it for this build, and that's going to be it for my coverage as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, thank you again to Zulus for hosting the event and letting me come out here and do the stream for it. Again, it's on my Twitch right now. It will be on YouTube in the next couple of days. And make sure to check out my case tourney and or not my case tourney, but my triple box tournament and my subathon that's going to be happening in this next weekend. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.